AITA for telling my stepdaughter to go ask her real dad when she asked me to pay for her plane tickets. Elise and I were married 12 years ago this month. A 16-year-old daughter, Anna, was born to her previous relationship, and we have a 7-year-old son. Since the beginning of our relationship, Anna and I have never been able to get along. The fact that this is not the result of a lack of effort has left me at a loss for words. She just does not care about me. Previously, she had been terrified of me because she was afraid that I would tear their family apart. Currently, it's more of a neutral dislike rather than a strong dislike, so I'd say that's an improvement. Elise is a stay-at-home mother who relies on my salary to support her family. Consequently, I am liable for all of Anna's financial obligations. Food and clothes are essential. Volleyball is subject to a fee. Excursions, I'm curious in what she's up to these days. I go to all of her athletic activities, but although I'm not pretending to be perfect, I do my hardest to be the best stepfather I possibly can. But it's really tough. Giving me one-word responses on a regular basis. It is necessary to have a cheerful mindset at all times. She does things in order to elicit a response from me. Staying out late and smelling like booze is not a good combination. Boys were often seen trying to sneak inside the building. This is a classic example of rebellious behavior. But I tell her all the time that I love her and that I'm here for her in the hopes that her teenager phase will be through soon enough. Her biological father, on the other hand, is diametrically opposed to all she stands for. She adores him, and he adores her. I'm not sure why this is happening. He never attends her games and is always inventing excuses to avoid seeing her in person. Last month, he forgot to wish her a happy birthday, and she sobbed herself to sleep. Anyhow, on Friday, I went into her room to check her cell phone and read her messages. This isn't a permanent measure, but she'd been caught sneaking out twice in the previous month. So this is her punishment. After asking for the phone, she responds, "No, I'm tired of you checking just leave me alone." I understand her frustration. She responds by saying, "Just F off now," when I tell her I'm not going to ask her out again. You're not my biological father in the traditional sense. You've never been there before. Stop behaving like you have the authority to tell me what to do. He snarled before getting to his feet and slamming the door shut. Guys, like I've already said, I'm completely spent. I'm tired of being treated with such obvious contempt, of being used as a verbal punching bag while yet providing for her and her family more than anybody else in their family. We hadn't truly spoken since we had breakfast together this morning. She inquired as to whether I would be willing to cover the cost of her flight tickets so that she could see her partner who resided across the state. As previously said, her mother does not work and her father is a jerk, therefore I would be the one who would be expected to foot the tab in most cases. Nope, not this time around. Ask your real father, I instructed. I could see she was in a lot of discomfort. After her tears began to rise up in her eyes, she stood up and walked away from the table. Later, my wife approached me and expressed her displeasure with my statement, saying it was very impolite. If there is anything that is rude, it is her treating me like a doormat and credit card, and I informed her that she would no longer be permitted to do so in my house. My response was to tell her that we didn't have to be friends, but if she couldn't be courteous to me or respect my authority, she could find someone else to pay for her non-essentials. She accepted my offer. AITA. Update. I did, and it was to express my regret. Even though I expressed regret about not being her biological father, she is my daughter regardless of how she feels about that fact. I told her that I loved her, and that I would be there for her no matter what. Why doesn't he, her biological father, love me? She screamed frantically, as she demanded to know why he didn't love her. It was then that I took her by the shoulders and informed her that she didn't have to fight for his approval anymore. Moreover, I expressed my regret for going through her phone, stating that I had come to the conclusion that it was not a suitable punishment for a young girl and that I would look into other solutions. Once I brought up the subject of therapy, she expressed apprehension. I informed her that there was nothing to be ashamed about, that everything she said in therapy would be kept absolutely confidential, and that having a confidant to guide her through her thoughts may be useful. She took a day to consider it, but the next day she notified me that she was ready, and I made the earliest available appointment for her, which was last Friday and her second appointment this afternoon. I don't want to get too enthusiastic now, since it's only been a week, but I already feel like I'm seeing positive improvements. She's even begun engaging in light conversation with me at times when she wouldn't normally give me the benefit of the doubt. All of the limits have been followed, including arriving home at a reasonable hour, and she has become less reclusive and more social as a result, to the point that her brother has noticed a shift in her behavior today. Nonetheless, the most fantastic piece of news is that when she stepped out of the car on her way home from therapy, she said, and I quote, "Thanks, Dad," which made me cry. I've been on a high for the last 2 hours when she addressed me as father for the first time. Despite the fact that I'm not delusional enough to assume that everything is great, the behavior change that occurred in the preceding week was the most substantial we have witnessed in a long time. I'm cautiously optimistic about the future. Story 2. AITA for choosing to go on a guy's trip over my GF sister's wedding. So, I've been seeing my lovely GF Jen, 27 female, for 3.5 years now and couldn't be happier. It turns out she has a sister named Kelly, 30 female, who was formerly married to my friend Dylan. Dylan and I were acquaintances growing up, but we only became friends when Dylan married Kelly 4 years ago. Because the 4 of us were often together, Dylan and I became friends via the sisters. Kelly, on the other hand, abandoned Dylan in the middle of the night for another man a year ago. Obviously, this resulted in a great deal of controversy and consequences. Kelly is now engaged to the man with whom she had an affair, and the couple will be married in April. My decision not to attend the new wedding was communicated to Jen as soon as the news was publicized. We got into a fight over it because she wanted me to be there to support her. I informed her that I feel that only those who are supportive of the wedding should be in attendance at the ceremony. She said that it was a family occasion, and that they would be taking family photos, and that I should be included in them. I told her that they could Photoshop me into the first wedding if they wanted to. We shouldn't select sides, I said, adding that I had already chosen a side, allowing her to do whatever she believes is right. She couldn't give up hope that I would ultimately give in and come with her. Consequently, Dylan decided to schedule a boys' vacation for the same weekend as the wedding in order to get out of town and escape the chaos that would otherwise ensue. He invited me and my friends to join him at his lake cottage for fishing and golfing. Of course, I agreed and informed Jen of my decision. Jen freaked out and said all of the things listed above, as well as how we had previously RSVP'd. And refused to listen when I advised her to phone her sister and inform her I wouldn't be coming that day. So I took care of it myself and informed Kelly that I had other commitments and would not be able to attend. And see then, I've been subjected to a relentless barrage of criticism. Their mother phoned with Kelly and informed me of Dylan's upcoming trip and inquired as to whether or not I would be accompanying him. When I told them that I was, they both burst out laughing, saying things like, "That's not how you treat family." I said, "I'm quite sure Dylan was family as well, and I saw how that worked out for him," and then I hung up the telephone. Kelly's new spouse, for some reason, even contacted me to introduce himself. They expressed their hope that I would serve as an usher and that my presence would make everyone happy. I explained to him that the wedding was all about them and that nothing I did should have an impact on it. Jen is mostly furious that I'm forcing her to go alone, but I keep reminding her that I shouldn't be compelled to sit and appear to be supportive of her decisions. Also, I'd want to offer my support to Dylan during what I'm sure will be a difficult weekend for him, and that my buddy is placed ahead of her sister in this situation. AITA.